Okay, so that's not that bad. It was like, I was trying to find my balance just going straight like that, and I just lost it. I just fell back. It wasn't even on a slope or anything. It was just, I just lost my balance. It was foolish. So props to you guys that can do some epic skiing. Hey, before I start, just want to give a shout out to all the women in the house, because today, let's do a round of applause to all the women in the house. Awesome. Today is International Women's Day. I don't know if you guys know that. I know some people do. Way to stay current on everything. So it's a time when people celebrate, the accomplishment of women, especially in the realm of women's rights, which is so important for us to talk about. And know that Norway has done so many incredible things, especially in this particular area. So props to you guys too. And also, it's a chance to celebrate the women in our lives. I know that I have a lot of women in my life that have just been such a huge part of my growth, and I owe everything to my mom and to my sister and to my girlfriend because they are so important. And so for all the men in here, I recommend you guys after this take out your phones and make sure to text your women in your life, the women in your life, tell them thank you, that you're grateful for them. I think it's so important. So just wanted to acknowledge that and make sure you all women in here know that you are loved, you guys are beautiful, and you guys are such incredible, strong people, and we just look up to you guys a lot. So today I want to talk a little bit about authenticity. All right, can everybody say authenticity? That was okay. Let's do it again. Authenticity. Awesome. Authenticity. So part of this movement of Jesus is a movement towards authenticity, okay? Towards being real, towards being honest. And if we're honest with ourselves, because we're going to be honest when we talk about honesty and authenticity, if we're honest with ourselves, we act differently depending on who we are around. You guys know what I'm talking about? Depending on who's around us, we act a little bit differently. And we all do this, right? When we are with our friends, we act a certain way, right? When we go home and we're with our families, we act a certain way. We act a little bit differently. When we go and hang out with some new people we've never met before, we act a little bit differently too. You might act a little bit differently around your boss or your coworker, right? If you have a job, you might act a little bit differently with your pastor. You might act a little bit differently with your teachers, and sometimes there's subtle differences, but other times it's like we have to put on this mask, right? We put on different masks. We have these different masks that we put on. Oh, it's family time. This is my family mask. This is family version of Isai, right? Oh, it's time to hang out with friends. Here's a different mask. And unfortunately, a place where we feel like we have to have a mask on, there's a specific place, and I believe that unfortunately, church has become the place where we have to have a certain mask on. Church and religious faith communities have become the thing where we have to pretend like we're something maybe we're not. We feel like we have to put on this mask in order to maybe fit in, or in order to be present in church, be present in the faith community. It's hard sometimes for us to be ourselves. Have you ever been somewhere that just has like fake vibes? Okay, like you go somewhere and you just feel like people aren't really being honest right here. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like I don't know if everybody is acting a little bit differently than who they really are. Sometimes it feels like at church we have to act differently, right? We have to act a certain way. Sometimes it feels like at church or in faith communities we have to look a certain way, and that one's really close to my heart because I have long hair, and back at home, that's a serious issue. I know here you guys are Vikings and you guys grow your beards and stuff like that, and that's completely normal. But back at home, that's not completely normal. There's some churches that will not let me preach because of my hair. That's a real thing. Yeah, I know. I'm getting some faces. That's my face too. I'm like, wait, what? I've gotten some complaints before because of the way I look. I've gone to a church before and they're like, hey, we're looking for the pastor. It's me. No, we're looking for the pastor. Yeah, it's me. People don't think that somebody like this, that looks like this, could be possibly a pastor or could be in church. There's some places where I couldn't be able to go to school if I had hair like this. You might feel like when you go to church, you have to look a certain way. You might feel like when you go to church, you have to pretend like everything's okay. Have you guys gotten that feeling like you have to pretend like your life is going okay? Have you ever talked to somebody that's so fake that you become fake? Like, for example, we've all had this conversation. I have had this conversation. Somebody comes up to me who's obviously not really being themselves. Hey, Isai, how are you? And I don't know what happens to me, but I'm like, hey, I'm great, how are you? I don't even act like that, And it's contagious. This idea that we have to pretend to be something we're not is contagious. Unfortunately, this happens so much that faith communities or church can be seen as the fakest community there is. That's the reality. Around the world, sometimes people look at church, people look at faith communities, and they don't see communities of authenticity. They don't see communities of honesty, but they see communities of people who are putting on masks. If you know what I'm talking about, say, mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. And this is the thing, people can spot it, right? People can spot it. People can tell. You've gone to a room and you've noticed when the room just doesn't feel okay. You've met a person and you've realized, eventually you realize, oh, this person is not being authentic. This person is not being fake. And people can spot it. And what happens is when people spot it, when people find out that this is not an authentic person, this is not an authentic community, people become disappointed. People become disillusioned. Have you ever been expecting something? Have you ever been expecting, wanting something to look a certain way, but then been really disappointed? I constantly get disappointed in this place that people call the happiest place on earth. It's called Disneyland. How many of you guys have ever been to Disneyland or one of the Disneyland parks? Some people. All right. So it's a big deal. I live maybe about a mile away from Disneyland, okay? I live really close, so all the fireworks that happen at 9 p.m. every single night, I get to see them from my house, or at least hear them for sure. I live right there in Disneyland, and I had gone a couple times, and I liked it, but I wasn't a huge fan because it's so expensive. It's so expensive to go there. So I remember when I was younger, they themed a ride to one of my favorite Pixar movies of all time, okay? And one of my favorite Pixar movies, might be my most favorite Pixar movie of all time, is Finding Nemo, all right? Anybody else that's their favorite Pixar movie, Finding Nemo? Meh? Wow. What is your favorite Pixar movie? The Incredibles. Ooh, Incredibles 2? That's going to be a game changer. What? Anybody else favorite Pixar movie? Cars? I actually didn't really like the Cars. Wall-E? Okay. I think now it's my second favorite one because I like Coco. Coco was beautiful. Did anybody else cry at Coco? I did. I was weeping at the end. Anyways, but one of my favorite Pixar movies was Finding Nemo, right? And I just love this story. They have this beautiful dad who's looking for his son, right? And when they come together, spoiler alert, they eventually find each other. When they find each other, if you haven't watched it by now, you deserve a spoiler for sure. So when they come together, even till this age, I still shed a tear because it's so beautiful. And in the middle they have Dory, right? Dory, who my mom for some reason calls Dora. I don't know why she calls her Dora. It's like, Mom, there's Dora the Explorer and there's Dory from Finding Dory. She's like, we're going to go see Finding Dora. No, Mom, it's Finding Dory. It's Finding Dory. So this story always captivates me, and that is why when I saw on the news that a new attraction was going to come to Disneyland called Submarine Voyage, I was like, no way. This ride is going to be the most epic ride ever. I'm a Six Flags type person. I like fast rides. And I thought Finding Nemo has a ton of action. All right, so this ride is going to be so intense, right? There's so much action in Finding Nemo. There's like the turtles, right, that are going super fast. There's bouncing around on the jellyfish. There's a ton swimming away from this shark. There's a ton of action, right? And so this ride is going to be so intense. And I'm like, this is going to be a life changer. I know that my life will be different after I go to this. So I'm like, Mom, we have to go. We have to go to this, to ride Submarine Voyage. She was like, no, like it's so expensive. I'm like, please, let's go. Like, I'll do anything. I really wanted to go. And finally, after so much convincing, my mom was like, fine, let's go to Disneyland. So we buy the tickets, super expensive. We buy the tickets, we go to Disneyland, and I'm so excited to go to this super intense ride at Disneyland. And so we wait in line for 4 hours because it was a new attraction. So everybody wanted to go. And at hour 2.5, my mom was like, we're literally just going to go to this ride today. That's what's going to happen. I'm like, no, it's worth it. Trust me. There's a lot of action. I have faith in the movie. I have faith in the ride. We are going to stay. And so we stayed. And I was so excited. I was so ready for something super epic. And then we go inside. And it literally is moving so slow that I can't tell if it's moving or not. I'm like, what is happening right now? It was like a documentary of fish. I was like, what is this? I was so upset. Like, people were getting claustrophobic in there. Like, people were wanting to get out. I wanted to get out. It was the worst ride ever. I was so disappointed. I had this idea of what this ride was going to be, right? I expected it to be so cool, so awesome that when I went to it and I realized it wasn't, I was so disappointed. I was like, I will never go to Disneyland again. Except I did go to Disneyland again, but years later. But I was so disappointed. When we expect something to look a certain way, and we somehow find out that that's not the case. We become disappointed. And some people, when they think about church at first, they think, oh, those are the people who love, right? Those are the people who are nice to people. Those are the authentic people. And they go to church, and they realize that's not the case, and they become disappointed. I think God is calling us, religious communities, because that's what this is, faith communities. God is calling us to be communities of authenticity. I really, really believe that. There's a person that I think embodies this idea of authenticity in Scripture. His name is Thomas, all right? There's a nickname that he has. Anybody know the nickname? Okay, I'll tell you, Doubting Thomas, all right? Doubting Thomas. Like he has that name kind of connected with him, Doubting Thomas. Even when I was little, I remember asking a question to my youth leader. And the question was a little bit more difficult, and it made it sound that maybe I was questioning, I was doubting a little bit. And he looked at me and said, Isai, don't be like Doubting Thomas. So Doubting Thomas has this stereotype. We think of Thomas as like this doubter, right? So I want to read in the book of John, he appears 3 times, and I want to read those texts to you and just see what we can learn from this person of Thomas to see, maybe we can rethink the way we think about him. So the first one is found in John 11, 7 through 16. It says this, then after he said to the disciples, let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, And are you going there again? Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in a day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. After saying these things, he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awake him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant taking rest and sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus died. And for your sake, I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. So Thomas, first time he appears, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us go that we may die with him. So it's dangerous for Jesus to go over there. It's dangerous for Jesus to go to Judea, even if it's to heal this man. But Thomas, in the first time in the book of John, he says, let's go with him so that we can die with him. Some people think that he's being sarcastic, but I don't really think that's the case. I think actually Thomas was a loyal guy. And he was like, yeah, if you're going to die, I'm down to die with you, Jesus. I think that's who Thomas is. So that's the first time we see Thomas. Then, there's John 14, 1 through 6. It says this, let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. This is Jesus speaking. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place to you, I will come again, and I will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. And you know the way to where I'm going. Thomas said to him, this is the second time Thomas comes up. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you're going. How can we know the way? Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So here Jesus says this text that we've read before, that we have heard before maybe, and Thomas raises his hand, hey Jesus, I actually don't know what you're talking about. He tells Jesus what do you mean? And out of that question, Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. I thank Thomas for that, because that's such a beautiful text. That's the second time Thomas comes up. Then there's John 20, 24. And this is after Jesus had died and resurrected. Thomas didn't know yet. It says in verse 24, now Thomas, one of the 12 called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, we have seen our Lord. They're telling him he has resurrected. But he said to them, unless I see his hands, the mark of the nails, and to place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe. Verse 26, 8 days later, his disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with him. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them, said, peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, put your fingers here, and see my hands, and put your hand and place it on my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe. Thomas answered to him, my Lord, my God. Jesus said to him, have you believed because you have seen? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. And this is where we get the nickname Doubting Thomas. In essence, Jesus has raised from the dead, right? And he has shown up, and everybody, all the other disciples, they had seen him, except for Thomas. And they told Thomas, Jesus is alive, and he says, unless I actually see Jesus, I will not believe. What we have to remember here is that Thomas wasn't asking for anything else that the other disciples hadn't experienced. Because the truth is, the other disciples hadn't believed until they actually saw as well. So Thomas just wanted that. And so we give Thomas so much problem, right? We give him a bad rep. We say, Thomas, oh, he's such a doubter. Don't be like Thomas. But maybe things are different. Maybe we can look at things from a different perspective. What if his narrative is not as negative as we think? Thomas got a closer glimpse of Jesus. His doubt got him there. What if he brings something valuable to our understanding of what it means to believe? We'll just do 3 observations because I'm a fan of 3 again. 3 observations and then we're done. The first thing is, Thomas questioned what he cared about. Thomas questioned what he cared about. Thomas questions because he cares. And we do that as well. We question the things that we care about. This is something natural that is a part of us as human beings. For example, one thing I question myself all the time of if I locked my door or not. Are you guys like that too? Like you leave your room and you're like down the hall and you're like, did I lock the door? And you know what I'm talking about? And you go back, you're like, I locked it. I'm gonna go check anyways. And you check and it's locked because you're so used to it, right? But you question because you care, because that matters to you, right? Same thing with if you have a car, you're questioning that constantly. One thing that you should question if you get into a friend's car is, do you have a driver's license? That's important, guys, because you question because you care about your own safety, hopefully, right? Maybe you have parents that question you. Hey, where are you going? Hey, who's going to be there? My parents were like that. Where are you going? Who's going to be there? When are you coming back home? They question me constantly. And yeah, sometimes it got annoying, but they question me because they care, right? Same thing with relationships. You question each other. Those can sometimes have conflict in them, but sometimes that's just a sign that you guys really care, right? I'm constantly questioned about different things from my friends, from my girlfriend. I'm constantly being questioned. One of the things that people question me about is my listening, okay? Because people have caught me not listening before. Like they'll be talking to me, and I'll be like, yeah, oh yeah, cool. And I'm just not there, right? I'm just not there. And one of the problems that I had, and I was telling you guys this earlier, one of my biggest problems, or some people will think it's like a superpower, but for me it's a problem, is that I can sleep at any given moment, at any time, in any place. I can sleep in a matter of like 3 minutes. I will just knock out. Anybody else like that? Just sleep super easily? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a great, right? Everybody, partly it's good because everybody looks at us and they're like, man, I wish I was like you. And they take like an hour to go to sleep. I don't know what that is. You know, I literally hit my head hits the pillow and I am out, right? I'm good. I was telling, so today, class, we were in the car, right? We were having a great conversation, but towards the end of that conversation, I don't know if you caught me, I was just like, I was falling asleep, and I had to tell Klaus, hey, Klaus, I'm just going to close my eyes really quick. And he was like, yeah, go ahead. Because it was like 8 in the morning back at home, you know? But my problem is I will fall asleep on people who are talking to me, okay? There was a friend that I have. His name's Josh. And Josh and I were having a late night conversation. And I asked Josh a question. And while Josh was answering my question, I fell asleep. So I was like, hey, Josh, what do you think about this? And he started answering. And by that time, I was just out. I was just completely out until now, from now on, Josh is always like, hey, are you listening? Hey, are you awake? What's going on? Same thing with my girlfriend. She has to constantly check with me. She has to be like, Isai, are you listening? And most of my friends are way shorter than me. You guys are pretty tall, actually, but most of my friends are way shorter than me. My girlfriend is about this tall. All right, she's tiny. And so she constantly has to be like, are you up there? Like, what's going on, Isai? Are you there? Are you listening? People question me because I think people care. We don't question what we don't care about, right? If some random person were to come up to me and said, hey, bro, guess what? Like, what? I am Spider-Man. If somebody told me that, I'd be like, cool story, bro. Awesome. That's good for you, right? Because I don't really care. I don't know this guy, right? But what if Klaus came to me? And Klaus came to me and said, hey, Isai, I need to tell you something. I'm Spider-Man. Yeah, man, exactly. You wouldn't be like, oh, good, that's cute, Klaus. No, I'm Spider-Man. Klaus, what is wrong with you? I would begin to question because I care. Because I know Klaus, I care about him. And I'd be like, bro, what is going on? Can we sit down and figure out what's going on in your life? We question what we care about, right? We don't question what we don't care about. Know that it's okay to question. It's okay to doubt sometimes, all right? If your doubt leads you to a better understanding of who Jesus is, of who God is, that is okay. It's okay to question because that shows that you care. It's okay to sometimes ask the difficult questions. God, are you listening? Are you up there? It's okay to ask those questions because that's a part of the faith journey. When you do it, it's because it matters to you. It's because you care about this stuff. And sometimes not all questioning is bad. That's the first thing. We question what we care about. The second thing is, you are not alone in these questions. Something that I always wondered, especially about that second text, when Jesus was saying all those things and Thomas just blurts out like, hey, Jesus, I don't know what you're talking about. I wonder if all the other disciples were thinking the same thing. I think they were. It was just Thomas who had the guts to say, I'm going to ask this question because I don't know what that means. Do you guys have that one person in your class who asks the question that everybody else is thinking? You guys know what I'm talking about? If you guys know that person, say, yeah, maybe that person is you. How many of you guys are that person here? All right, way to go, all right? We're the outspoken ones. We're the ones, the possibly extroverted ones. How many extroverted people do we have in here? Yeah, how many introverted people do we have in here? Me, it's me. But people are sometimes grateful, right? Introverted people are sometimes grateful for these extroverted people who ask these questions because they're asking what everybody else is thinking. I'm that person. I'm like, hey, I don't understand what that is. I'm that person back in class. I'm taking some master's classes at La Sierra University back at home. And I remember several weeks ago, maybe a month ago actually, my teacher was sharing something and she said this word that I had never heard before. This random word that I didn't know. And everybody, I looked around when she said it and everybody in class was like, yeah, I was like, what? Am I the only one? Am I foolish here? And I don't know what came into me, but I raised my hand and I was like, oh, I'm so dumb for asking this question. She's like, yes. I'm like, hey, what does that mean? And the whole class was looking at me. And as I was saying that, I was like, Isai, you are a fool. Like probably everybody else knows what that means. So I ask her and she explains it to me. All right, a little bit after, we go on break. And one by one, all the students were like, hey, Isai. I didn't know what that meant either. Thanks for asking that question. It's like, what in the world? I thought I was a fool, right? I thought I was foolish for asking that question. But sometimes these questions that we have are questions that everybody else is thinking. Know that you're not alone in these questions. These questions that you go through about spirituality, about life, that's not just you. That's all of us. We're all asking those questions together. And sometimes people need you to have the bravery to actually raise your hand and say, hey, I don't understand that. Hey, but what about this? Hey, what about that? We sometimes depend on people like you guys to actually say those questions. There's a bit of comfort and peace in knowing that these questions that you have about spirituality, about God, about life, these questions are shared. We all have these questions and we're all in the journey together. Know that this is a safe place, guys. This is a safe place for us to wrestle with these issues. Feel free to wrestle with these issues in class. Ask the difficult questions, because chances are that everybody else is thinking the same thing. You are not alone in these questions, and may you find peace and comfort knowing that we are all with you in the journey. And number 3, to believe, you must experience it for yourself. You cannot always live on what other people say. You can't. You can for some time. When you're little, you believe everything your parents say. I don't know how popular Santa Claus is here. Do people believe in Santa Claus here?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, of course, because he's real. Gosh, maybe you can have a conversation. I'm just kidding. So back at home, people grow up and they're told different things by their parents, right? And we believe them because they're our parents, and that's the kind of relationship that we have. But that's not sustainable. After a while, you reach a certain time where you have to experience for yourself. When you experience something personally, that's when you have conviction. That's when you have conviction. You can't have conviction when you live off somebody else's belief. You have to experience it for yourself. I have a friend who said, "Hey, bro, there's this pizza place that is the best pizza in the whole world." I don't know about in the whole world, right? I was already questioning. I was like, what in the world? No way. I know my pizzas a little bit, all right? This place is probably okay. It's the best pizza in Redlands. It's a city that I live in. He said, "Trust me, that's the best pizza ever." I'm like, nah, I'm not buying it. And after a while, I was like, okay, I'm sure it is. I believed him. I was like, it's probably a good pizza. And some other people told me the same thing. Isai, it's really good pizza. This place is called Bricks and Birch. All right, and so they have different gourmet pizzas, thin crust, which is what I like. And he kept telling me, "Isai, you have to check out this place. It's the best pizza in the world." Now, I couldn't have gone, yes, I believe you. It's the best pizza in the world. You can say that, but it's not as serious because you haven't experienced it yourself, right? I couldn't fully understand. I couldn't fully agree with him. I couldn't fully believe because I was just hearing it from somebody else. And then finally the day came, right? And I go to this pizza place. I'm looking through the menus. They have some random pizzas. They have a Thai pizza. They have this barbecue chicken pizza, the real chicken, not veggie chicken. They have this barbecue chicken pizza. What should I get? I look a little bit down. There's this thing that's called the jalapeno popper. All right? And what it is instead of regular cheese, they put cream cheese and jalapenos. It's that sounds crazy. I want it. So I ordered it. I have this jalapeno popper, and they take forever because they cook it in this brick oven. So they bring it out, and here's the moment, right? Everybody has been telling me, "Isai, this is the best. This is the best thing in the world." Everybody's been telling me that. And then finally, it's my time, and I experience it for myself. And I take a bite of that pizza, and the cheese just kind of is gooing out of this thing, right? And I try this, and they're right. The best pizza in town, for sure. I was in awe. I have been going there pretty much like every other week since then. It's a little pricier than normal pizza. That's why I don't go every single day. But it's so good. It's so good. I've tried the Thai pizza. I've tried the barbecue chicken pizza, the real chicken. I've tried it, and it's so good. It's so good. But I couldn't actually believe it unless I experienced it for myself. You can't believe and fully believe in what people are saying unless you experience it yourself. And when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to God, this whole God, Jesus thing, you have to experience it yourself. And I think you guys are here in a time in high school, you're in an age where it's time for you to figure out if this is for you, right? It's time for you to experience it yourself. You've heard it, you've seen movies, you've heard it in class, you've heard sermons, but unless you don't experience it yourself, you won't fully believe. I think Jesus welcomes that, right? He doesn't necessarily turn around Thomas and says, Thomas, you fool, for doubting, get out of here. You're no longer my disciple. Instead, he says, come here, see for yourself. And Jesus says the same thing for you today. Hey, come, ask your questions, experience it for yourself. Don't just settle for maybe your parents' version of spirituality. Don't just settle with the spirituality of this school, of your Bible teachers, of your pastor. Don't settle for that. That's all great. Don't get me wrong. These are things that will guide you, right? These are things and people who will give you a better understanding, but you won't fully believe, you won't fully be convicted unless you experience it yourself. I want to encourage you guys to take the next step. Take the next step. Actually engage personally in this. Make it matter to you. Begin an honest, authentic search for God. Some questions might be difficult. Some doubts might be real. But maybe this might lead you to a deeper conviction about God and a deeper conviction about Jesus. There was a time in my life when I struggled a lot with faith. I was asking myself the difficult questions, right? I was asking myself some questions that led me to doubt, and I was searching. And during that time, I asked God a lot of questions as well. I asked God questions about why these horrible things happen around us. I asked questions about, what is the meaning behind all this? I asked all those questions. And know that I didn't experience a God that just kicked me out when I asked those questions. I didn't experience a God who said, Isai, you fool, for not believing. But I experienced a Jesus who said, come and find this for yourself. So during that time, I actually wrote a song about it. And this is a little different than maybe the worship songs that we're used to singing, because this was in a place of really big doubt for me. But this is a song that I wrote, and I hope that you're able to notice the journey and notice that we're all on this journey together. eyes open wide like two rare pearls, tears coming down, one for each curl. God, why choose me? Why choose me? Loud screams images now I can't unsee. Daddy says stop, please don't choke me. I cannot breathe, I can't breathe. Spirit of God, breathe on us. Spirit of God, breathe on us. Man Brown, leaving his love for a white crown. Tell me where beauty can be found, 'cause out of the ground we find life. Baby, heartbreaking sound, how could this be? Crying out loud, please come save me. Our God is great, God is great. Spirit of God, breathe on us. Spirit of God, breathe on us. Help me, scarcity's here, can I be free? Breathe in the ashes of my plea. Listen to a searcher's prayer. Jesus, show us the beauty in this dust. We're dying in pain, won't you save us? Have mercy, oh God, on us. Spirit of God, breathe on us. Spirit of God, breathe on us. In the moments of doubt and pain and questioning in your life, may that be our prayer. That the Spirit of God just be with us in the journey. If you're sitting here today and wondering if you're the only one, know that we're all here with you in the journey. And know that Jesus always welcomes it. And Jesus invites you to experience him for yourself. Can I pray for you? Jesus, we thank you for welcoming us in with our questions, with our struggles, with our doubts. Thank you for loving us through that. May this community always be a community of authenticity. May this community be a community of honesty. And may we come to fully experience who you are for ourselves. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. Hey, we're going to end by singing one more song. This song is one we learned yesterday. And I hope that you're able to experience the love that this song talks about, the reckless love of God.